Welcome to Burn the Ship. This is the podcast where we interview entrepreneurs and we connect people that can go all in on their business with people looking to go all in their business, right? We're talking to professionals that have walked the walk, talked the talk, have been through all the things that we experience as entrepreneurs, and hope that some of the people listening can bottle up some of those skills and experiences and make their entrepreneur journey a little bit easier. I appreciate you committing some of the time to us. It means a lot to me, a lot to the audience for you to be here. To be talking to us. The time is very important. So I appreciate you being here. I wanted to say that up front. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business?
Hello, everyone. My name is Rick Munger, owner of Iger Creative. Iger Creative was not the first company that I started. I started back in the 80s, um, and I started a consulting company because, frankly, I was working at various companies, and every time somebody said, "No, you're not going to be able to do that," that's when I started getting the itch to either move on or find a way to get whatever it was done. And if the company was resistant, then I moved on to another company. But frankly, I got tired of that, so I became a consultant. Um, and for those of you that I didn't preface this whole thing by saying I'm in IT, so I worked on operating systems, very intense integration type of code and things like that. So um, I've seen a lot of businesses. I've been involved with manufacturing. I've been involved with warehousing and distribution, medical, insurance, both property, casualty, and medical. Um, and after seeing all these other industries, I basically started looking at uh, what was happening in the market. And uh, my reading of the tea leaves showed that the best thing for me to do was to center on a single um, vertical type of business, and where the world was heading was towards medical. And the reason for that had a lot to do with what type of population was being done. And the baby boomers were going to get old, and as they were getting old, they needed medical attention. So that's where I centered on that. So, in your journey to be a business person, you basically have to wear a lot of hats. One is to kind of get out that crystal ball and figure out what's going on in the world and how can I address it. Um, After that, it's then looking at, for me, it was always looking at the operational side to say that, all right, it's nice to go out and sell something. Great, but you have to be able to fulfill. So, do I have the resources to fulfill the needs that the clients are asking me? And as a consultant, I started out as a single person, and opportunities presented themselves. The clients liked what I was doing. They asked me if I had, uh, bandwidth to do more and more and more. And, you know, finally it gets to you're working 80 to 90 hours a week, and you're saying you don't have a chance to sleep. So that's when you start expanding, and you bring on other known resources, people that you can trust, and they love it if you're going to be able to do all the paperwork. There's a lot of people out there willing to come on board with you. They'd rather Most of them, you'll find they'll want to be an employee rather than be an employer themselves. So they would prefer you to be the entrepreneur, and they're perfectly comfortable to assist you. So um, that
Where's
was
kind
part of
of
the.
that? Where's kind of that brought you to now? So what's your day to day look like now? Are you working on specific projects? Or are you working on a gamut of projects?
So as I said, I started back in the 80s. So yes, I've been around a while. So I'm doing this for 40 plus years. So I started Iger Creative to address that medical need. And at that time, when it was formed, I had a friend that I grew up with. He went into pharmacy. I went into IT and engineering. And he contacted me and said, "Hey, Rick, can you help me with my pharmacy?" Uh, I stopped down. We had a couple of beers in the back, and he showed me what was going on. So, long story short, I wrote a program for him to help him out to do something for pharmacy called medication adherence. And what that basically is blister packing, putting all the pills that a patient needs into a single blister, so it relieves the confusion of having 6 or 8 bottles sitting on your kitchen countertop and wondering, okay, which one did I take? Which one did I miss? Um, this way, the pharmacy has it all set up for you ahead of time, and it made life easy for his clients. Um, Fast forward 7 years later, he was able to capitalize on that program and multiplied the revenues of his pharmacy by 10 times. So at that point, so he went from 3 million to about 32 million in revenues. And he said, that's it, it's time to get out. And he sold the pharmacy and bought himself a horse farm. So
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
was good for him. At that time, I took the software, wrote it, and for more than his pharmacy, and got the subscriptions, sold it as a subscription, uh, and currently have it in about 100 pharmacies around the nation. So I've been doing that, and that was fine up until COVID hit. COVID, unfortunately, swallowed up a lot of these pharmacies or got them to shy away from doing anything out of the ordinary. So we looked at, all right, what else can we do to help these pharmacies? So, I mean, this is something as an entrepreneur, you constantly have to keep reevaluating the market to find out what's going on and are you addressing the needs of the client? So currently we have a couple of other offerings in addition to the software, which we're still selling. Um, but we have other offerings, including there's an expense management offering, which takes a look at all of the expenses of your company. Um, we then find you better deals, whether it's for the um, same uh, vendor that you're using, or whether it's for something. Um, if we find you a better deal with another vendor, I'll give you an example. Um, your phone company, if what say you're using AT&T and T and we find you a better deal with AT&T, why wouldn't you take it, right? So if you're spending $200 a month and now we find that we can cut it down to $100 a month, that's great. But we also find that, oh, hey, if you switch away from AT&T, you can cut the bill down to $75 a month. So you have a choice. Do you want the savings to stay with the same vendor, or you have an additional savings if you move? That doesn't always happen, but that's the situation. So we get a portion of the savings, so it doesn't cost the customer anything. It's found money for them, right? They were
Sure.
saving, they were spending $200 before, now they're spending $100, and we take a portion of the $100 savings as our fee.
Sure. No, that makes a
So
lot of sense. So
yeah,
tell me this, like, I guess this kind of floats into my what have you done well um, question. But how do you take this product and how do you get to that hundred pharmacies? Like, how do you create that pipeline and get it implemented into that many places? And then on the other side of that is like, how do you, what is it that taught you or gave you this idea to go the expense management route of providing services to these people that are already in your pipeline to generate additional revenue?
good questions. We'll start with the first one, which is basically a marketing question. So for me, I looked at how am I going to get the word out about this software? And yes, I explored, um, the normal things like the local chamber of commerce and some other trade groups that are regional, say in my state. And I'm in Connecticut. So I looked at Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York, Rhode Island, etc. Um, The issue was is that I was thinking too small. Um, the response was minimal. Um, you always run into clients that are not interested in your product. Why? Because they're doing something else. Maybe they don't want to get involved in the process that your product addresses. So um, so what I did was I looked for partnership. So I was working on referrals, and that really wasn't working. I might have had at the time referrals and local regional got me to maybe between 5 to 10 subscriptions, and that's about it. And it wasn't going too much farther than that. Um, I partnered with some other label and blister companies. So I looked at the industry that I was doing. My software needed consumable supplies in order to survive. So I partnered with those companies and I asked them how they're doing their marketing. Most of them were going to trade shows. So I partnered with them and attended the trade shows. Of course, I had to pay for a portion of the booth, but I got into the trade shows, and it actually was a huge hit because what with the consumables company plus the software, we were presenting an end-to-end solution. They could come to the booth, they could order, say, a pallet of supplies, and they can get the software that prints directly and perfectly on those supplies. They didn't have to go hunting; everything was right there in one spot. Um, in years following, we also added a company that had a machine that automatically filled the labels and blisters. So it made it super simple for the pharmacy. All they had to do was come to the booth. They could order one, two, three things, and they're all set to go within approximately 2 weeks, waiting for things to arrive at their place. They were set and ready to go. Additionally, for that, we helped them, the pharmacist, because not all of them, even though they order the software and they order the supplies, not all of them know how to sell it. So we had experienced a lot of questions about what was the best way to market. Who do we market to? Um, and if you think about it from a standpoint, the pharmacist is a strange business because they're accustomed to standing behind the counter. And what happens traditionally? You come into the pharmacy with a slip and say, "Here, please fill this." You're the customer going to them. They don't reach out to you. So, in the business that I'm talking about, doing these labels and blisters, in order for them to succeed, they have to reach out to the client. They have to go to a nursing home. They have to go to maybe a prison or a jail, to approach the administrator of these businesses to say, "Look, I can supply these things to you, and this is what I can offer you." And what my products do are basically his production side. So but we had to help the pharmacies in many cases to become better salespeople.
Sure. I can understand that. What have been the obstacle? What's been the difficult part over all of this stuff? I know that building that initial pipeline is definitely difficult. That's why I asked that question. That's why it's so
Yeah.
impressive, right? It's like I couldn't, as a merchant services company, it would take me so long to go build a pipeline of 100 pharmacies and get them to change and adapt my technology. But what has been the bottleneck since you've made that?
So
What? Like once you got to that 100 pharmacies, what's stopping you from getting to 1,000 or 10,000? I guess is really my question.
there's competition in the market. So with that 100, although it doesn't sound like a lot, it actually ended up being from our um, queries into the market. We ended up being like fourth in the nation in terms of sales for that type of software. So respectable, not number one, but for us to get to be number one, we needed further analysis of what our competition was. So we looked into the competition, and that was fairly easy because you're going to these trade shows and you see your competition is there also. So yes, you can
Sure.
study what they're doing, what their sales techniques are, and of course they're doing the same to us. So our theory was, you know what, we couldn't beat them on price. One of our one of our competitors was giving away the software. Um, if you buy all of our supplies, then we'll give away the software. Well, yes, the supplies were slightly more expensive to pay for the software, but you know, that's the way that worked. So we fought that by adding a lot more features. We also added one key feature was to say that it doesn't matter which um, consumable supplier that you're going to use. We set our program up so you could immediately switch from any of four different suppliers, and we could handle it with no problem. So giving us the edge so that when COVID hit, one of the first things that happened was you might have read that there was supply chain issues everywhere. So our software was one of the few that was all set no matter what. If the pharmacy couldn't get supplies from one vendor, then they could call up another one. Usually they would call us up and say, what can we do? And I said, all right, here's a person's name at supplier number two or supplier number three. And I said, here's your choices, and they would call me back a few days later and said, okay, we got supplies on the way. And it was easy enough for them to change. There was no real setup for them to do. Everything's all set within the program, as long as they order certain models of supplies, then they're gonna be fine. So
Sure. Well, what's this experience been like for you as far as going in, like creating a business and finding a way to partner and build your pipeline, continuing to do the thing that you're good at, which is handle and perfect the technology? How would you sum up this whole entrepreneur experience for yourself?
um, it wasn't even about after a while it wasn't about the technology. It was about looking and listening to what the clients are complaining about, right? Not even complaining, that's probably a bad word. um, but you listen to what are their business problems, and then you have to think to yourself, make a mental note of those problems, then go back and think, okay, is this something that I can address? Is it something within the realm of what I'm currently working on? So in other words, is it something within my software? So I thought about that, and yeah, a majority of the time, like the supply chain problem, I was able to solve that very simply. Um, Adding features, adding specific reports, those are easy, um, and it immediately addressed the customer's issue. Um, when the pharmacy started losing money due to COVID, and they faced the threat of having to sell out to a major chain, um, that's when we said, okay, what else can we do? It wasn't something that we could address with our existing software. So that's when we introduced this other product with expense management.
Sure.
So, so that's how we did it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just listening to your client, everything, being able to utilize the feedback that you get from your clients is the only thing that directly correlates with um, the user experience in a way that's going to lead you to more business, right? Like it's
Correct.
the fastest way to shut the nozzle off. So I can relate to that as well. And then as far as making that commitment, right? As far as going from a full-time job to starting your own agency to partnering with people and going through this journey for 40 years. I think a lot of the people that we're talking to are probably in their first 6 months of business, or they're the people that are continuously kicking the can down the road 6 months out from their business because they don't know what they need to know in order to start. What would you say to those people that are in that process of trying to become entrepreneurs themselves?
Well, the first thing is that you have to take that wonderful idea that you have for being in business and do a little bit of testing before you commit all of your retirement savings to it. Uh, do some testing to find out, is this really something that the public wants? So if you're aiming at ranchers, and maybe you have something to for horses that you would like to sell to ranchers, or some other product that you know, widgets that you're going to be selling, uh, whatever it is, the trick first is to find out, is there a customer need for this? How much demand is there? Um, and if you're finding from your initial testing that there's enough of a demand where you think this is going to grow, in other words, if you notice from week to week that the numbers or the demand for your product is going to keep growing, then that's shows a lot of promise to now start investing more into it. Um, but if this is something that's constantly sitting on the shelf, and even though you may go to, I don't know, my daughter over here in the background, my daughter sells, does artwork and goes to craft fairs. Not everybody likes the paintings that she does. She'll hit one craft fair that loves them, and she'll come back all energized. She'll go to the next one and she won't sell any. So, so part of the solution is finding a product that people want. And number two, making sure you put yourself in front of the right audience. So that's the magic. That's the two things that you really need. Um, is there something that I can tell your audience right now, that some magic way to do that? Not really, because it depends on what it is you're trying to sell. Whether it's a service or whether it's a product. Um, it's a matter of first making sure that there's a demand for it, and secondly, make sure that you put yourself in front of the right audience to make sure that demand stays there. That's that's been the formula that I use, and it
For
works.
sure. Yeah, it's about as simple as you can make it. There's a lot of intricacies that goes into those things, especially depending on what your industry is and the product that you're selling.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, my industry is kind of this combination of high ticket B2B sales and high volume interactions with potential merchants, right? So like we kind of live in both of those worlds where you have to talk to a lot of people in order to convert the amount that you need to make it successful. And your industry usually is the very similar way. You know, the SaaS and ISV world is diluted right now. There are a lot of people getting into that space. So if you're going to be in the technology space, my 2 cents is that test, understand your customer, understand the needs of your customer, and then find a way to permeate the market that's not going to cost you 100% of everything that you own in your life. Get customers before you take funding, and then work really hard. That's really kind of the only band-aids for those things. So, Rick, I appreciate your time. I really do. Like I said, for myself and the audience, it is essential for us to have these conversations and keep learning. So I appreciate that. If there's anything else that you want to leave the people with, feel free. The platform is yours. But I think I've asked all the questions that I have. You know, I mean, our goal here, like I said, is to connect entrepreneurs or professionals that can help you go all in on your business. And your story has definitely helped that. You've been a part of making it a little bit easier for people that are interested in the technology world. So,
People have asked me in the past, so what got you to be like this? And I said, well, frankly, I listened to my grandfather, and he said something. It was a quote that some other philosopher said or something in the past, but you've got two ears and one mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. And that served me well because I listen to my clients before I go ahead and say something or whatever. I listen to what they're doing and what's going on in their life, because frankly, it's about your clients. It's not about you. It's about them. So that's it.
absolutely. Well, I have appreciated the opportunity to listen to you for a while, my friend. Truthfully, I think what you do is really difficult, and it's hard to understand that unless you're really in that world. But building that pipeline and understanding the needs of an audience as far as technology goes is a really difficult thing. And then being able to articulate that to very busy people is a whole nother thing. So I look forward to staying in touch with you. We'll definitely be in touch. I will edit this. Branson will edit this, is what I meant to say,
Mhm.
over the next couple of weeks. And once we get it out, I'll send you the stuff that you need, the clips that we post, the full YouTube episode. Please share it some way or shape or form. I think Jay wants to talk again because he didn't get the opportunity to talk to you on Memorial Day. But other than that, no, we'll put it out and then we'll be in touch.
Sounds good.
Cool.
All right.
Well, I'll talk to you
Thank
again
you.
soon, my friend. All right, burn the
All right.
ship.